Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Welcome back to another edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. It's the weekend, so it is our picks in the NFL for, I haven't done this in a while, for Spike.
What am I supposed to be saying?
Let's go week 8.
Oh, week 8.
It's just not as fun now if I have to cue you up.
Yeah, whatever. I'm just not
okay. I haven't done it for 7 weeks before, so you're off the hook. But it is the Vegas Squares podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We are once again in our audio format as we were for the golf podcast this week. By the way, Token, how's your golf? How's your Bermuda picks going so far? I'm tailing you on one of the picks. Big.
Yeah,
so far it's a good pick so far.
Yeah, that's about the only one of the 3 matchups that I have that are looking decent. The other ones, not good, pretty much.
Yeah, and then I tailed, what's up?
Futures, I took Bryce, what's his name? Bryce Garnett, and he's 4 behind the lead, so not too bad going into the weekend.
Yeah, then I tailed Tony on the Doc Redman top 20, and I think he's in 3rd place, so we're okay right there. I got the severance check from the old job, and I decided to blow my load on a few of your all's picks. So hopefully they pan out for the better. Otherwise, that my 7 years with that company just went down the drain.
Went down the shitter.
No, I didn't spend it all, but I spent a good chunk of it. So anyways, moving on. It is week 8 in the NFL, and we are going to do our picks as we do every week because our contest has to get picks this week, and I need to catch up real fast. And while I look over the games here, let's talk about here in the slate in week 8, we got 13 games, couple teams on bye. Spike is going to give us the updated standings through 7 weeks here for our $100 Vegas Squares picks bet.
Yeah, so once again, bringing up the rear is dear host Aaron with 11.
He's in double digits. He's in double digits.
11. He finally hit double digits. 3rd place is the absent fake token Tony Johnson. Not fake Tony. That doesn't make any sense.
Real Tony. He's just a fake token.
Yeah, he's really Tony. He's just a fake token. Tony Johnson with 14 points. Real token sitting in an impressive 2nd place with 20 points. I have barely eked him out in 1st place with 21 out of 35 correct picks. 21 and 14 for your current leader, nearly at the halfway point of the season.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, you know what? For right now, I will let you boast. Well played, sir. It's a long season, though, if it actually ends up going to 17 weeks. Before we get started here, I want to thank a couple of our sponsors. Obviously, first and foremost, 12-Ounce Sports Network. There's a new twist around 12-Ounce now. Any buddy watching the 12-Ounce Sports live stream on YouTube, it will be going 24 hours a day. It's basically streaming Zingo TV. So anything that goes on Zingo TV will also be streaming on the 12-Ounce Sports YouTube live stream as well. So you can catch all of the 12-Ounce Sports shows on Zingo TV, channel 761, and also, like I said, the 12-Ounce Sports YouTube live stream will be running 24 hours a day. Visit them at 12ozsportsnetwork.com. And, of course, our sponsors, Vice Golf. Our affiliate link is on our page at lvsquares.com. Again, they are probably the best in the game, comparable to the Pro V1s and the TP5s from TaylorMade. Again, please check out our sponsored affiliate link so you can support the show while you're buying golf equipment and clubs and balls from Vice Golf. And, of course, Fanatics. With the holidays coming up, please use our sponsored affiliate link so you can support the show and support the station. We have it also on lvsquares.com, or you can email us at vegassquarespodcast@gmail.com, and we'll happily provide you that link. You got Christmas coming up. You got birthdays. You got the holiday season. So please use our affiliate link for that sports fan in your life to help out the podcast. And, of course, Zingo TV, where you're watching and listening to us. Get a free account with 120Z promo code, and you can get all of the shows on channel 761 from 12-Ounce Sports. All right, so let's dive into it. It's week 8 in the NFL, and What is your favorite matchup before we dive into these, Token?
It's definitely not the Indy-Detroit matchup.
Shit on your team, but they're actually playing pretty decent this year.
Hey, they already matched their win total from last season, so
well, Matt
on the up and up. The matchup to watch, in my opinion, this week is Pittsburgh and Baltimore.
Okay, Spike, what do you think? I know that New England has taken a dump, and Cam Newton, your comeback player of the year bet on Cam Newton, has fallen since the Seattle game, basically.
I had a bet on Cam Newton as comeback player of the year. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, you wrote I wrote a whole article about it.
Okay. That makes a little more sense. Yeah, well, since Token just stole my game to watch of the week because it's the only game outside of New England I would actually give a fuck about, and presumably the only game I would actually watch if the Patriots weren't on at the same time. I'm fully on board with the tank for Trevor once again, by the way. The only thing I'm really looking forward to is the Kansas City Chiefs game against the Jets, simply because I want to see if Kansas City can break triple digits in that game. Like
a Madden score.
Yeah, it's just the Jets are just such an absolute joke this year that, I think Kansas City probably has a good chance of hitting. I don't even know what the over. I didn't look at that game for betting purposes at all. Total is 49.5. Yeah, Kansas City should be able to get that by themselves.
That's a good point. I actually am most excited to see, yes, that Baltimore and Pittsburgh game is going to be exciting in the 10 a.m. Pacific slate. But I am excited for two matchups that are not that game. The first one, obviously, is going up against that Pittsburgh-Baltimore game, and that's the LA Rams in Miami. Tua making his first start against a team that's playing incredibly well on defense this year so far. Obviously, we're going to touch more on that later on in the show. And the second one, obviously, my man crush on Russell Wilson. Anytime San Francisco and Seattle get together and they're halfway decent, it makes for some pretty good games as well. I am unfortunately not looking forward to that Sunday night matchup, Dallas versus Philadelphia. I'm not even 100% sure who Dallas is putting on the field. I've never heard of this Ben DiNucci guy. I'm not even sure if he's ever taken a snap anywhere in his life. I'm sure he's like the statistician and they're just lining him up. I am not looking forward to that. But Tampa Bay and the Giants, obviously looking forward to Tampa Bay and Tom Brady on Monday night. So, all right, let's dive in. We'll start with that Indianapolis and Detroit game that Token is waiting on bated breath to talk about. The current line is Indianapolis, a 3-point favorite on the road. The total is 49.5. Detroit coming off of that funny, weird game against Atlanta. I tell you what, Atlanta, even though they won on Thursday night, they are finding the most interesting ways to lose games. But we're not talking about them. I just wanted to basically touch base on that. By the way, Token, Spike did give you a lot of props for picking well this year. I will go ahead and pound you down a little bit because you and I have a side bet for Thursday night games, and you are hot garbage in that bet.
I won 1 week, and that was your pick, and I got a backdoor cover.
Yeah, you got a backdoor cover in the first week, and you've lost 5 straight weeks after that. So on your pick, or one my pick. Anyways, so Indianapolis and Detroit. Indianapolis coming off a bye week, but they are really terrible at running the ball, and they're relying on Phillip Rivers way more than anyone should rely on Phillip Rivers. I don't know if that's going to be a recipe for success down the line here for Indianapolis. Detroit playing decent football again. They are the first team in NFL history, Spike, to not lose a fumble in their first 6 games. Thought that was an interesting stat because, I know they've thrown picks because we got Stat Padford on the field. So, but I will say this. I'm curious to watch this game. I'm curious to see if Indy kind of overlooks Detroit again. I know they're 3-3, and you're not supposed to overlook anybody in the NFL, but the Colts' next games after Detroit are Green Bay, Baltimore, and Tennessee twice. So I'm curious to see if this might be an overlooked game, Token, for the Indianapolis Colts against the Detroit Lions.
In my opinion, it's probably overlooked. I mean, just because they are the Lions, they'll find a way to fuck it up, and Pat Stafford will find a way to probably fumble and have a couple interceptions by himself. So
Spike looks like he has nothing to say on this, so we will.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just two teams that I've probably, in total this year, I've watched about 5 minutes of their games. It's just two teams I don't find interesting. I don't care about Phillip Rivers. I don't care about Matt Stafford. Neither of these teams are in a division I care about. Neither of these teams are, they're not competing for the top of the conference. Neither of them are going to be in their respective conference championships games. This is just not an interesting matchup to me.
That's fair. I think what might happen with Indianapolis, especially if they're right there at the 7th seed or the 6th seed, the defining moment of the Indianapolis season might be that loss to Jacksonville, especially if Jacksonville goes 1-15 for the rest of this year. So it'd be I still think this might be an interesting matchup. This is going to be the one where everyone's watching something else, but I feel like something in this game is going to make everyone tune in to catch the end of this. It'd be a close game. I don't know. It'd be interesting. So, all right, Minnesota and Green Bay. Last time they played, it was to open up the season, and Green Bay beat the brakes off of Minnesota. Minnesota is not looking good this year at all. I believe they are 1-5 or 1-6. Green Bay is a 6-point favorite in this game at home at Lambeau. Total is 50. Remember, the lines are provided by the Westgate Superbook. At the time we record, Cousins has basically said this week he feels the playoffs are not out of reach. I don't know if I buy that for them in that division. If they were in the AFC East, I would definitely be more – or NFC East, excuse me. I would definitely be more apt to believe him. Spike, you and I called that bounce-back fuck-off performance by Aaron Rodgers last week. We both said he was going to have, 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, and that's exactly what he went out and did. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I buy Minnesota really being competitive in this game. Dalvin Cook questionable, but he did practice Friday, so if he does play. The big thing that scares me about the fact is this is a division rivalry, and Aaron Jones is out again, token for the second straight week.
Yeah, and that's one reason why I avoided putting this game in my 5, but, I mean, it's going to be a decent one to watch. It's hard to bet against Aaron Rodgers, even in a divisional game where it's less than a touchdown. I mean, it's going to be a close one, in my opinion, and it's not going to go either way. Green Bay's going to win, but by how much?
I tell you what, Spike, is Aaron Rodgers moving into that category? I don't know if you subscribe to this theory, but I kind of subscribe to this theory. I really don't want to have my action against the Tom Brady's and the Patrick Mahomes of the world. I'd rather lose with them or win with them. Is Aaron Rodgers fall into that category for you as a sports bettor?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's really tough to try to bet against him, especially this line actually confuses me because these are two teams that see each other a lot, playing in the same division. Green Bay did win the first one by 9 in week 1, and Green Bay has only looked better since then, and Minnesota has only looked worse since then. I'm actually surprised the line is so low. It seems like one of those things where the books would jump all over the chance to make Green Bay a double-digit favorite in this spot, and they didn't, and I can't figure out why. It just doesn't seem like the line is correct, or at least it didn't start off correct, because the line opened at 6.5, and it's only moved to 6. I don't get it. The other one of the things I did want to point out, though, for all the times that you two have shit all over me for saying that the NFC West would be the worst division in football, let's not forget that our friend Tony Johnson said that the Minnesota Vikings would be the best team in the NFC this year.
I said they'd win the division, so I have egg on my face with that one too. But if I want to choose to believe Kirk Cousins, then he says the playoffs aren't out of reach. If you're a Vikings fan or a division-winning bettor there, you've got to hold on to any hope. At least Kirk Cousins still has some sense of optimism, even if I don't. I don't know. I can see the double-digit theory in that spot. I just I feel like there's a lot of people. I didn't take anything on this game, but I feel like there's a lot of people, and I would include myself in that no matter what, I feel like I've ridden not New England. I've ridden Minnesota maybe to my own peril, and you might be right. I mean, grabbing Minnesota at a 10-point dog, I think people would jump all over that. So. And if Minnesota does keep this close, the book might take a bath on that. So that's just my thought. There's a lot of people maybe chasing losses with Minnesota this year. And, the sports books seem to be one step ahead of us, so I will trust their instincts on that. All right, let's move into New England v. Buffalo. This is a series, a matchup that has been largely dominated by New England. However, there is one key component missing to that series, and that's obviously Tom Brady. You can't really talk about this series and talk about without talking about the elephant in the room, and that's 12's not in this series anymore. Buffalo is now a 4-point favorite. I can't remember the last time Buffalo was a favorite against New England. Spike, maybe you can help me out with that. But the total in this game is 40.5. A low total. I don't know what the weather like we're expecting in that one, but Buffalo's weather is obviously unpredictable, windy, snowy. Anything can be really possible right there. Cam Newton, I'm thinking Cam Newton might get benched this week if his performance like the last 2 weeks continues. 98 yards and 3 picks. That's just not going to cut it unless Bill Belichick is tanking for Trevor. That would be an interesting thought process. You may start out the season not intending to do that. We all loved Cam Newton. All the New England fans were like, Cam Newton might be able to make this team respectable. And I don't know. It's a weird spot. Buffalo seems like, despite the fact that they barely beat the Jets, they felt like they were kind of in control that whole game. The total on this one, again, is 40. That's a very low total. That's a hard one to really touch because New England and Buffalo combined for, 24 points last week against their respective opponents. This seems like a spot where they might touch in the 50s. The defenses are beat up for both teams, and Josh Allen's getting another target and John Brown back after missing last week, Token.
Yeah, it's definitely an odd one compared to years past in this matchup, like you said. Going to be interesting how Buffalo kind of bounces back after this one and what New England's game plan is the rest of the year during this game and throughout the rest of the season. I mean, even if they don't end up getting the number 1 overall pick, they might try and trade up for it, even if they're like right around the 3 to 5 range. I could see them trying to do that, whoever, probably the Jets would be number 1, and they probably wouldn't trade with New England, so.
Well, there's that, plus also the fact that, if they're the number 2 or number 3 pick, maybe Bill Belichick likes Justin Fields better than he likes Trevor Lawrence.
Well, there's also the rumor that Trevor Lawrence is not going to enter the draft this year and that he's going to come back to Clemson for his senior year.
Well, caveat emptor with that, there was a rumor because it's believed that the Jets are going to pick number 1 this year, and there's a lot of talking heads that say, if you're Trevor Lawrence and the Jets are the number 1 pick, then you're basically telling them to go fuck themselves. But I don't know how you walk away from that money. I mean, I don't know what Trevor Lawrence's family or financial situation is like. You don't walk away from number 1 pick money. I mean, I don't buy it. What do you think about this game, Spike?
This is, I think it's in. I was optimistic that New England was going to make a run for it this year after they signed Cam Newton. Is fully on board with the tank for Trevor train as I was. When they signed Cam Newton, I said, all right, fuck it. If they're signing Cam Newton, let's go for the division. Let's go for a good playoff spot. Let's try to win something here and have a respectable season. That's clearly not the case. Cam Newton is clearly not the answer now that they're sitting at 2-5 because they had that bye week because of the COVID cases, or 2-4.
You're 2-4 right now, yes.
2-4, yeah, with the this being 2-5 after this week. This is a team that I want to see lose the rest of the way out. I am fully back on board with the tank for in parentheses, insert name here once we know who that quarterback is going to be. It's just, I don't know. Newton's sloppy, Stidham sucks. Hoyer's 70 years old at this point. So
72.
Yeah, okay. It's just, I have no faith in any of these quarterbacks, and even if I did, I don't have trust in Josh McDaniels to have the right game plan.
Well, what's crazy is you think about this, there's some history here. Peyton Manning was the starter in Indianapolis for, 12, 13, 14 years. I don't know how many it was. But then, he goes down. The Colts suck for a year. And then they end up with Andrew Luck. I mean, you look at Tom Brady for 20 years or whatever. He was the quarterback. They go for this 1 year. And, I mean, obviously, if you're Trevor Lawrence, the opportunity to be paired up with Bill Belichick, you're not going back to college if that's the case. If you're
right.
if the opportunity to be paired up with Adam Gase is, you may go back to high school at that point. Try to get 4 more years of eligibility. But I think if Trevor Lawrence, if the New England Patriots have the number 1 pick or can somehow get to the number 1 pick, Trevor Lawrence is coming out. 100%.
I would absolutely love that.
I would agree. All right, Tennessee and Cincinnati. This game is low-key interesting, in my opinion. Tennessee is now fallen from the ranks of the unbeaten, that leaving just Pittsburgh in that spot after Pittsburgh beat them last year on a Gostkowski missed field goal to tie the game. I'll give Spike his 3 seconds to relish in that. The situation here I've noticed with Tennessee, despite the fact that they are only have 1 loss, I noticed their defense has been a little bit of an issue. Last week, Pittsburgh was 13 of 18 on third down. That is huge. That is just not something you can do. And they have – Myles Garrett has more sacks than that whole team does. So there's some issues with Tennessee's defense. Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry are clearly masking them. Not something I thought I'd say. Ryan Tannehill, being an elite quarterback, masking defensive inefficiencies. But they're coming up against Cincinnati. The Tennessee is a road favorite of 7 points. The total is 50.5 at the Westgate. Joe Mixon out again for the second straight week. But Joe Burrow token has seemed to find a little rapport with A.J. Green. I think this might be an interesting game, to just don't have to write it off as a Tennessee blowout.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how this Tennessee defense kind of incorporates the game plan against the Cincinnati offense, even without Mixon on the field. Cincinnati still has an all right amount of weapons, and Burrow's nothing to lose. I mean, except for he has everything to gain: the knowledge, the skill, the experience. It's going to be a good one for him to develop for a long term this game. So
I mean, this one's interesting to me in the fact that I am interested in seeing how Joe Burrow does. Every other aspect about this game I couldn't care less about. Joe Burrow, given his record, is probably not going to get the credit that he deserves for keeping the Bengals in these games and being able to put up yards. He's got 5 games of over 300 yards already, or 6 games, like ridiculous number. He's I think 1 behind the all-time rookie record, and we're not even halfway through the season. This is an impressive rookie season for a quarterback, which we don't often see. Usually these kids come out of college in their first year, they struggle. They'll throw more picks. They'll throw fewer yards. They'll have trouble getting that chemistry. And Burrow looks like he's not only making the right decisions, but he's reading defenses at a level that is above his age, so to speak. So I think that part of it makes it a very, very interesting watch in the long term. But again, being that it's on the same time as the New England game, is not one I'm going to be able to watch. But that stat line at the end of the game, I think, will be very much worth checking out.
Yeah, I think Joe Burrow might actually, especially if somebody's got the NFL package or sitting in a sports book, I think Joe Burrow might actually start becoming must-see TV with the way he's playing. I mean, Kyler Murray kind of had the same situation, last year, his rookie year, and then Baker Mayfield became must-see TV. So these number 1 picks have been playing pretty well so far right out of the gate. And actually, the craziest thing is, as well as Joe Burrow has been playing, his odds to win Rookie of the Year dropped. Justin Herbert has now leapfrogged him into the leader in the clubhouse for win Rookie of the Year as far as betting odds go. So I'm curious to see not only those two, but now we're going to get Tua. We're going to talk about Tua later, obviously, but now we've got 3 rookie quarterbacks going this Sunday. This is a good week of football. All right, Las Vegas traveling to Cleveland. Cleveland is a 2.5-point favorite, total 49 in this one. Odell Beckham Jr. is now out for the year after having surgery on his torn ACL. Bit of a hiccup here this week. Baker Mayfield on media basically said but not said that the Cleveland might be better off without Odell Beckham Jr. That did not sit well with Coach Stefanski and some of the teammates, including Jarvis Landry, who now steps up to become the number 1 receiver, who's buddy-buddy with OBJ. They're childhood friends or whatever. Las Vegas got thumped by Tampa last week. We saw that one. They held their own for 3 quarters, but Josh Jacobs, you talked about it last week. If Las Vegas is going to stay with Tampa, Josh Jacobs has to run the football. He had 17 yards rushing last week, so that is not good. That's probably why they got beat by 25 points. But Baker Mayfield's been playing well. You talk about a guy who's consistently throwing, last week he had 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. He lines up against the 29th ranked pass defense in Las Vegas here with a Carl Joseph safety who's just coming off COVID. This one, if you're looking at the total, I think Cleveland might be flirting with it by themselves.
I wouldn't disagree with that statement in that one, but it's going to be interesting how Baker does without Odell on the field, taking away maybe an extra cornerback or a safety or even a middle linebacker on the defensive side of Oakland. I mean, Oakland's pass defense is pure garbage, but I don't think they're that awful. So,
well, they are third to last in the league.
Yeah.
I think the crazy thing is I think Cleveland's got the perfect setup to use a playbook, a page out of the Bill Belichick New England Patriots playbook. They've got Austin Hooper and David Njoku, 2 incredibly athletic and gifted tight ends. I think without OBJ, they find a way to use those guys. Jarvis Landry can move into that steal the cornerback, mentality and role. But I think Stefanski's going to have to look for a spot where I think Chubb will be coming back, Kareem Hunt, and those 2 tight ends. Those 4 playmakers are where, if Cleveland wants to continue to be successful and Baker Mayfield wants to continue to be successful, those are the 4 playmakers that are going to make this team look good, in my opinion, Spike.
Yeah, I agree that Cleveland's offenses look great, but I think this is where Jacobs plays such a big role in this game. Is the old put the ball in the running back's hands to keep the other offense off the field. So you get Oakland. You get Vegas running the ball. You get them controlling that clock, and it doesn't give Baker Mayfield the chance to make those big throws at the end of the game. It doesn't give him a chance to get those 300 to 400 yard type games that we may be expecting of him. I will say, however, that I am completely biased on this game, given the fact that I bet Cleveland last week at -3.5, and that stupid fucking idiot kicker missed that fucking extra point at the end of the fucking game. So I'm never betting on Cleveland to win a game or beat the spread for the rest of the year, because fuck the goddamn Browns. They suck, and they're going to suck the life out of anybody that actually bets on them. So fuck Cleveland.
Well, don't worry about it. This week I might actually do it for you. So, all right, Kansas City and the Jets. They're better off sending Benny and the Jets out to this fucking game than letting Sam Darnold get killed week after week. He came back last week for the first time, 120 yards and 2 interceptions against Buffalo. That's not going to get it done. And now they're going to play a team that's, I don't want to say light years ahead, but light years ahead of them. That's the only thing I can think of. This team. This looks like, I don't know if you guys seen the Little Giants, the movie Little Giants. This looks like, even though the Giants won in the end, the first matchup they played when the Cowboys destroyed. This looks like that matchup right now. I feel like the Jets are going to be standing around with booger bubbles just blowing out of their fucking noses. Biggest spread of the week, Kansas City, a home favorite of 20. And some spots I've seen 21. I've seen it at 22 in spots as well. We are settling at 20 at the Westgate. The total is 49.5. And Spike, you like to say this sometimes with Kansas City. They might get that total by themselves. Not to mention, if all else was against the Jets, they also Le'Veon Bell is. I think I'm starting Le'Veon. I picked up Le'Veon Bell in a bunch of leagues. I'm starting Le'Veon Bell. I think this is. You want to talk about the Aaron Rodgers fuck you game? I think Andy Reid, because he knows he can control this game, Le'Veon Bell might be 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in this spot.
Wow.
I think I'll take a bold. I'll make a bold prediction. He gets 80 plus. Actually, I'll take 100 plus total yards and 2 total touchdowns. I'll take that.
Wow.
I think Le'Veon Bell is looking to seek revenge on this because he did not like Adam Gase, nor does most people. But
yeah.
Also, Andy Reid can get to 5th all-time in wins with a win in this game. And the Jets, like we've talked about, there's a reason they're 20-point underdogs. They are last in total yards and last in points scored on offense. So this does not bode well for New York. If they were at home, I might feel a little comfortable at taking that 20 because normally I told you, biggest spread of the week, I'm taking the dog. I can't even begin to pretend to touch this game.
Would you even touch this game in your 2-touchdown teaser?
34 points? Yeah, I'd take 34 points.
Ooh. The only reason why I say that wouldn't be as bad is probably because Mahomes might be benched right around halftime.
34 points is a lot in an NFL football game.
It is.
I would rather lose having 34 than I would probably. I mean, if you're talking about this specific game, I'd rather move Kansas City to 6. But yeah, I would take 34 points.
Okay. Yeah, it's the only thing to talk about on this game is Kansas City. Besides that, I mean, who cares about the Jets unless if you're a Jets fan? And I feel your pain.
Will the Jets go 0-16 at William Hill? It's plus 340, Spike.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only reason I can't bet on the Jets to go 0-16 is that I'm really hoping that the Jets beat the Patriots twice.
Good luck with that, sir.
Yeah, well, I know. No, I mean, this is a really good team going up against a really bad team, and this is, we see this all the time, usually in college football, where that superstar team goes against the team that nobody knows about. We're seeing it this week where Clemson, well, before Trevor Lawrence had the COVID diagnosis, Clemson was a 32-point favorite over Boston College. I don't know what that line moved to since that diagnosis came out, if he's going to play or what the deal is on that, but whatever. But we see these big lines all the time, usually in college. We don't see lines like this in the NFL, and there's a reason. There's usually parity. There is not parity in this game.
No, I agree with that.
Every advantage you can think of, from coaching to quarterback to position players to lines to defensive line to defensive secondary, special teams, all of it goes to Kansas City. This is not a game that the Jets should even be competing in. If they wanted to save face, they should just have Adam Gase go out on his hands and knees and beg for mercy before the opening coin toss. I wouldn't even dress the players for the Jets in this one.
That's fair. I mean, and I've said it. I now have a bet with Talkman Radio. He says Adam Gase doesn't last the season. I said, unfortunately, I think he will because they don't want to pay 3 coaches. So, yeah, Adam Gase should probably just try to forfeit all these games. Or, dude, he's got the perfect built-in excuse, 2020. I mean, he can literally say that his team's testing positive for COVID at this point.
Yeah.
Just pay the players and just send them home. I will be on board with that. Yeah, the Jets should just, what do you call it? Just end the season. Isn't that what they say? All right. It's Tua time in Miami. LA is traveling. The Rams are traveling from west to east to play that dreaded 1 p.m. Eastern start time against Tua and the Dolphins. Fitzpatrick went 3-3 with Miami in the interim. Not 100% sure I agree with this move, but it doesn't matter. The Tua era has started. The Rams defense has looked really good, which makes me nervous for Tua Tagovailoa. But you know my thoughts on Rams and West Coast teams playing those 1 o'clock games on the East Coast. It doesn't usually bode well. Plus, they played on Monday night as well. So this does set up a spot that could actually benefit Tua Tagovailoa in his first start. The Rams are 3.5-point road favorites. The total in this one is 46.
In my opinion, it was not wise to start Tua in the spot. I don't think it's a fair starting position for him against this defense. Even though they are going from west to east, I don't think that will matter as much as you think in this game. And I give the Rams a lot of credit with their coaching abilities in this one, and it's going to be a rough start for him. I hope he does well in the NFL, but it's going to be an ugly start in my opinion.
Well, the thing is, Spike, for me, I thought this was kind of high risk, low reward. I mean, Fitzpatrick, especially with the added playoff seed this year, Fitzpatrick had a decent shot in that division to get this team to the playoffs. Now you're putting in a brand new rookie quarterback, and if things go wrong, Brian Flores could lose the locker room. I'm not saying the players are against Tua starting, but at 3-3, a lot of these players were here for that season that was dog shit last year. They may have actually thought, hey, we got a decent shot to make the playoffs this year. And then Coach Brian Flores literally flips the script and puts in a rookie. I mean, I'm not saying Tua is going to lose a lot of games, but if they lose out based on, and this is obviously, who knows how it would go, but if Ryan Fitzpatrick was capable of getting into the playoffs and they went with a guy who didn't seem like at this point in his career was capable of getting in the playoffs, that could be a big chemistry problem for the Dolphins.
Yeah, the decision to start Tua was baffling to me, especially in this spot where the Rams are playing good football. I don't know why you decide to start this kid out in this spot. I understand wanting to starting him at home, but I just this makes me cringe. I don't know why they would want to do it here. They have other spots coming up where they could put him in, where he has a chance to win. It'll be interesting that December 6th game that they have against the Bengals, where it'll be Tua against Burrows. So that'll be a fun one to watch and one to look forward to. And maybe the idea was that they wanted to give him enough reps prior to that game so he doesn't look like a rookie. But I don't know. I don't understand the move to do it now, not when you're 3-3. If Fitzpatrick was 0-6 or 0-7, if he was throwing, twice as many interceptions as touchdowns, fine, I get it. But he was playing perfectly well. He was doing perfectly fine. It's not a super competitive division. Huh?
Coming off 2 big wins, too. They crushed San Francisco and they shut out the Jets. I know it's the Jets. Shutting out a team is big.
Yeah, and the division isn't super competitive, but it is winnable. And I don't know why you bench a winning and capable quarterback for a rookie in a winnable division. There's nothing about this makes sense. And maybe this is just Flores showing the fact that he is an inexperienced head coach, and he didn't know that this was not a decision that should have been made. But hey, who knows? Maybe Tua will go and
Tua could
fucking
surprise us all. I just thought you're right, because the next 3 games they have, obviously this one against the Rams, they're at Arizona, and then they come back home against the Chargers. I thought that was the 3-game stretch for Ryan Fitzpatrick, basically. Yeah, you've got us to 3-3. You've played well, but I want to see 5-4 at worst. If they lost 2 of those games, if they were 4-5, then you know what? You got at Denver, at the Jets, and then at Cincinnati, or again home against Cincinnati. You could have had 2 there, because those are 3 teams that are beatable. And the fact of the matter is, at 4-5, if Buffalo's 7-2 at that point, yeah, you think the division's probably out of play. This, to me, I mean, at 3-3, I think the division's definitely in play, and Fitzpatrick's played well enough to do. I don't know. Like I said, this is a high risk, low reward, because I feel like Fitzpatrick can probably get this team to 8-8, and if Tua gets this team to 8-8, or if Tua can't get this team to 8-8, I think this was a colossally bad decision. But again, I could be proven wrong. I'm not rooting against Tua. I don't think it's the right move.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and the last of the 1 p.m. Eastern time games was that aforementioned Pittsburgh v. Baltimore game. Pittsburgh coming in as the last unbeaten team at 6-0, taking on a 5-1 Baltimore team. Baltimore is a 4.5-point favorite. The total in this one is 46. Baltimore coming off that bye week leads me to believe they're also pretty healthy too. Only real injury is Mark Ingram, but J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards have almost taken over the backfield in that spot. The Pittsburgh Steelers, all their weapons, Ebron, Deontay Johnson, Juju, they're all hurt. None of them practiced this week except for Friday. So I'm curious to see this one play out. I still think we're going to get a good game, because we have 2 great head coaches, 2 good franchises, and, of course, 1 Hall of Fame quarterback and another one who's playing really well right now.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one to watch. It's going to be interesting how well these defenses can handle each other's offenses. And one big question mark is, can Lamar throw against the Pittsburgh defense? or will he kind of struggle against that secondary? So.
Well, that's the question. If Dobbins and Edwards can run and Jackson, then, that's the thing. I think that's what Baltimore really has to do. And it's no disrespect to Lamar Jackson, but every defense that plays him wants him to throw the ball.
Yeah, my concern with Baltimore this year, and as good as their record has looked and as good as Lamar has looked this year, their wins have come against bad teams. They've beaten the Browns, who are better now, but that week 1 victory against the Browns, I don't know that I don't know that Cleveland was up to the challenge at that point. But wins against Houston, Washington, Cincinnati, and Philadelphia. These are not wins that inspire a lot of confidence. Obviously you have to go out and win every week and you have to be able to play your best. But the last 2 weeks, the Steelers have beaten the aforementioned Browns, who were been, again, playing much better, and Tennessee. So 2 teams that are playing much better football. It's a weird spot for me because I think that, as exciting and everything as Baltimore is, especially in offense, especially watching Lamar Jackson, I don't know how he does against a Pittsburgh defense that is playing out of their minds good football right now. So, yeah, you're right. It's going to be an interesting one to watch. I think a lot of people will be tuning in for this one. I think it'll be one that a lot of bettors are looking at as well, especially with those prop bets, those yardage bets for Lamar and whoever else is out there. I think this is going to be a fun, interesting game, big handle for the books, and one that I think a lot of people are looking forward to. And I think I don't have action on this. This is one that I should have put in. I have real money on this one, not anything in our contest. But I think the Steelers in this spot is probably the right play, right? I mean, it feels like it makes much more sense to have an undefeated team plus money rather than a team with a loss as a favorite. Pittsburgh feels like the right play here.
Yeah, I mean, I look at common opponents. They both played Philadelphia this year. They both kind of struggled. Philadelphia was in the game against both those teams. They both throttled Cleveland, albeit at different points of the season. And then I look at some of the other games that Pittsburgh has played. Now, this is obviously earlier in the year, but they struggled to get by the Giants. They struggled to get by the Broncos. They struggled to get by the Texans. So it's an interesting one. And I think the big factor here for me, and obviously – not to divulge, I do have a pick on this one. I think the bye week for Baltimore is the biggest key factor in this game, in my opinion. All right, moving on. We'll move to the late slate here. New Orleans v. Chicago. In Chicago, New Orleans is a 4.5-point favorite. The total in this one's 42.5. What's the last time you saw a New Orleans game? I don't even care if Superdome or not. That was 42.5. That's an interesting one here, but especially to me, in my opinion, I know Chicago's defense is playing well, but New Orleans' defense is giving up huge plays all throughout. They've given up 27 plays of 20 or more yards, and they've given up 7 touchdowns of 40 or more yards. That's incredible. And they don't have Michael Thomas. So it's I know that's on the offensive side. It's just, I don't know if it's just the mentality of the last few years of football for me, but the 42.5, in any New Orleans game just seems crazy to me. BDN is in danger, I think, of probably getting re-benched for Mitch Trubisky. And he still found a way. I mean, I know that Mitch Trubisky has won 2 of these games. It's the weirdest thing because they're like, well, the Bears are 5-2. It doesn't matter how they win. They just win. But then Mitch Trubisky goes 2-0 and he gets benched. It's the strangest set of, happenings for the Bears this year. I mean, they beat the Bucs, on prime time, and then they go and get crushed by the Rams. They're the weirdest 5-2 team I've ever seen. The run game stinks. They haven't had a 300-yard passer this year, and they haven't had a 300-yard passer in the last 12 games. So I don't know. This is a strange game for me. I didn't feel right even trying to find an angle on this one.
Yeah, I mean, from the betting aspect, I kind of felt the same way. It just seems like a trap, no matter what way you look at it. The total, the side, it doesn't seem good either way.
What pick could anyone make that they'd feel comfortable with on that side? Chicago plus 4.5? Chicago has found a way to be in games. I mean, I know that the Rams game, take the Rams game aside, but that game against the Lions where they came back, the game against the Giants, they were ahead, but it was a close game. The Atlanta game, we can, they talk about the comeback. Even the game they lost against Indy, they were only lost by 8. They beat Carolina. They beat Tampa. I feel like the only bet I could feel comfortable with was laying the dog at home. And even then, I still don't feel right. They could get beat by 2 touchdowns by Drew Brees.
Yeah, it's just going to be interesting how the Chicago defense can hold this Michael Thomas-less Saints offense and can contain the run with Kamara in the back, and it's just going to be interesting from that aspect to me. So,
Spike, let me ask you a question. Do you feel shades of the Tebow Broncos with the quarterback position and the incredible defense for Chicago? I feel like this is a team that could make the playoffs. We don't consider them contenders, but they surprise you. This feels like that Tebow Broncos team in 2011 or 12 or whatever it was. I feel like there's a connection there.
Whatever year that was, where they had Josh McDaniels as the head coach, and he moved up in the draft to get Tebow, and actually won a playoff game with him, beating Pittsburgh in overtime that year.
Mm-hmm.
I can certainly see signs of that to a certain degree. I think, and I think you're right. I can't make sense of this, of either of these teams, to be honest with you. I don't know what Chicago's doing on offense. I don't know why BDN isn't working there. I don't know if it's game planning. I don't know if it's talent. I don't know if it's scheme. I don't know if it's the offensive line gives him no time to throw. I have no idea what the problem is. He should be doing better in that system. And the fact that he isn't, I don't know where to place the blame on that one.
A lot of people are placing the blame on the coach.
That would make sense, but Trubisky isn't working either. So I think at some point you have to look at the general manager in the front office and say, why couldn't you get better talent at quarterback?
But they're 5-2.
I know, but that's still like they're that way despite the quarterback play, and that's
they have no running game either. They're that way just on defense alone. It's crazy. It's just not.
Yeah, it's just such a bizarre situation. But yeah, I think you're right. This is also a weird spot with Breeze, sitting as a total of 42.5. How do you ever figure a Drew Brees game goes like under 50 points? But this could be that one. This is a game that's that I think a lot of people are going to be watching with bated breath to see, can Drew Brees, as aged as he is, be able to hold fast against a really good Chicago defense, and that scheming that they're doing on that side of the ball, because God knows that Chicago's probably not going to score a ton of points in this one. So they're going to have to find other ways to win this.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's hard to win in the NFL. So it's crazy how so many problems are happening in Chicago, and they're 5-2. So.
Yeah.
All right, San Francisco and Seattle. By the way, I'll say this. Either this game or the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game should have been flexed to Sunday night because of the dumpster fire we're getting. But unfortunately, I know Philadelphia and Dallas draw TV ratings, so I get it. But San Francisco and Seattle coming off their first loss of the year, an exciting game. I don't know if you guys watched that on Sunday night last week. Seattle and Arizona, that was a hell of a game. But nevertheless, Seattle is a 3-point home favorite. The total in this one, 53.5. San Francisco, we talked about it last week. They crushed New England like 34-6. And the stat I read this week that was interesting regarding Russell Wilson, when leading by 4 or more points at the half token, Russell Wilson was 59-0 before last week's game.
Ooh, wow. And that was a rough beat for them last week, and another division opponent this week. It's hard not to like Seattle in this one. I mean, Garoppolo is still a question mark in my opinion, but it's going to be you're going to see both these offensives produce in this one, in my opinion. So,
everybody shits on Garoppolo. The kid's playing pretty decently. This year, obviously the injury, he wasn't in the Philadelphia game, but they're running backs. They just can't seem, and none of them can seem to stay healthy. They get Jeff Wilson, who runs for 3 touchdowns last week, and he goes down with an injury. They get Raheem Mostert, who was, pretty good last year in the playoffs. He's down with an injury. Jerick McKinnon signed this big deal. He can't really seem to get anything going. They might get Tevin Coleman back this year. I'm curious, Spike, on this side, because Seattle's defense can't stop a nosebleed this year.
No, they're giving up far too many points for this team to be successful long term, especially in this league. And they say defense wins championships, and Seattle's defense ain't going to win them a championship. They are, however, a very good team capable of making a lot of noise, and especially when you're going against a team that is, I can't say mediocre as San Francisco, because San Francisco's still playing good football, but I wouldn't put them in the upper echelon of the teams in this league, or the teams that I expect to make a conference championship game. I just don't see them in that realm. But you're right. Essentially completely shutting down the Patriots last week makes the 49ers look good. They look formidable. They look like they're doing all right. Garoppolo, 277 yards, but no touchdowns and 2 picks, something like that. 275, 280, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. You don't expect Seattle to be able to do better than what New England did on defense. So Garoppolo should have a bigger game. I just think that we have a Seattle team that's playing much, much better at this point. That despite the loss to Arizona last week, Seattle is, I think, the better team in the better spot with a better chance to win this game than what San Francisco has right now.
That's fair. I think I would agree with that too. I think overall they got the better quarterback and they got the better offensive line going right now. So I would agree in that spot there. All right. The last of the later slate on these games is the Chargers at Broncos, or the lovely aforementioned Spike likes to call them the Clippers. They walk into Denver as 3-point favorites, total 44.5 in this spot. We talked about that game, KC and Denver, and how even with the snow, we talked about why the total was so low. You talked about Denver maybe being the reason because they can't score. But I kudos to them because they helped me get the over in that game by putting up at least 17 against the Kansas City Chiefs. And again, 44.5 the total in this one. Both teams 2-4 this year. But I got to say, Token, it seems like one team is way more optimistic than the other, and that's the LA Chargers.
Oh, absolutely. It's just kind of unfortunate for the Chargers that Eckler went out as early as he did, but this team can kind of bounce back. It's going to be interesting how Herbert at quarterback can bounce with this team. He's got a decent arm too. He can throw the ball 40+ yards down the field and with accuracy. So.
Yeah,
one to look out for.
And despite the fact that Eckler has gone out, Justin Jackson has really filled a solid role in the running game there. When Eckler does come back, I think they've got an interesting 2-headed, if not 3-headed monster also with Joshua Kelly. Keenan Allen, Phillip Rivers. I had Keenan Allen on my fantasy team for a lot of years, and Phillip Rivers just, for whatever reason, if it was accidentally or on purpose, could never find Keenan Allen. He's averaged 8 catches a game since Justin Herbert has taken over the starting job. And I tell you what, as well as Herbert's been playing, I still feel bad for Tyrod Taylor. I feel like the fix was in for that guy. How have you ever heard a team doctor puncturing the guy's lung and breaking a rib on a routine cortisone shot? It's crazy, Spike.
It very much is. I'm actually looking at the quarterback on the other side of this one, though, because is Drew Lock expected to start this game? I don't even know.
He played last week.
I assume he is. So I was doing a little bit of pregame research, and I don't pay attention to Denver, so I wanted to see what Drew Lock's stats are. You know how Google, when you search for something, it'll bring up suggested questions or people also ask? The first question there was, is Drew Lock good? So I think that gives you the sense of what the public is asking when it comes to Drew Lock and the Denver Broncos. Are they any good? And probably not. Last 3 games that Drew Lock has started, he has thrown 0 touchdowns and I think 4 picks. For not a lot of yards, mediocre yardage. It's not a good spot. I think, Aaron, you hit it absolutely on the head that the Chargers right now have all the optimism in the world. Even if they're losing, they have to feel good about the way the team has looked in spurts, the way the team has played, and the fact that they may actually have their quarterback of the future, or at least the next few years, that will get them out of mediocrity and finally propel them to where they were when Rivers was Rivers and they had guys like LaDainian Tomlinson and Gates and that kind of an offense. So I think they're starting to feel like they have that capability again, and I think Denver is going in the exact opposite direction.
Yeah, it does feel like that. I feel like if you tried to buy Drew Lock on Amazon, it would say like customers who like this also liked, and there would be a picture of like a trash can. So. And I was high on Drew Lock. I just, he has no touchdowns since coming back from injury. He ran for 1, but he's thrown 6 picks in that time. So I'm just, unfortunately, I'm not jumping off it. I think Drew Lock can be good. I'm just not seeing it right now. So, all right, for me, the Sunday night game, Dallas and Philadelphia. Philadelphia is an 11-point favorite. The total is 43 in this one. And I have 3 words for this game, Token. Thank you, next.
Yeah, I'll pass on this one.
I've got a full Netflix queue, so I don't give a fuck about this game.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to rewatch the Brooklyn Nine-Nine series instead of watching this game.
We were watching the Halloween episodes tonight to get in the mood for tomorrow.
There you go. All right, so the Monday night game, Tampa Bay and the Giants in the Meadowlands. Tampa Bay walking in as a 12.5-point favorite. Total is 45 in this game. I know it's the Giants, but my initial thoughts in this game, and with all due respect to Tampa, I can't love them hanging 12.5 points on this matchup here. Token, what do you think about this game? Spike, I got a very specific question I want to ask you after Token talks about his thoughts on this game.
All right.
I mean, that's a lot of points, like you have said. But it is Tampa. They can score in clumps and quick. The big factor to me is how Daniel Jones will do in this one. If he can find some open wide receivers such as Tate and kind of move the chains, keep the Tampa Bay offense off the field, and just kind of burn some clock. If he can do that, they might be able to hang in there, but probably not. So,
all right, Spike. Question: I thought about this. I really tried to dial in this game and really see if the Giants, there was any kind of edge or angle I could find to really like the Giants. And the only thing I can come up with is, obviously we know that Joe Judge is the coach of the Giants. He came from New England. Is there anything from his time in New England that he could take against Tom Brady and, well, to a lesser extent, Rob Gronkowski? Because those two look to be firing on all cylinders. Is there anything he took or can take from his time in New England to combat this crazy good offense right now?
I mean, theoretically, yeah, he could find all sorts of schemes. He can find all sorts of positions. He can put people in to be able to try to stop Tom Brady. He should be able to, or he knows the offense well enough, or at least he knows Tom Brady's capabilities in said offense. I think his problem is just he doesn't have the talent to be able to pull off any kind of game plan. I think that's going to be the bigger issue here.
Okay.
It doesn't matter how much you know, if the players got to play, and they don't have the players that can play up to a level that Tampa Bay's doing, especially with the way that Brady's looked over the last couple of weeks. I think he just got NFC Player of the Month, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, yeah, he's got like 1,800 yards and 9 or 12 touchdowns and one.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a spot where you should like the Giants. I mean, this is an interesting, area where I think Tampa Bay has quite the ability to just run the Giants out of their own building, and that's, it's got to feel good for Brady to a certain vindictive point.
Well, you know what? Speaking of that, let me ask you a follow-up question to the Joe Judge. You think any coach in the league, if there really was a rift between Brady and Belichick, do you think any coach in the league is calling Bill Belichick to see if maybe he'll give them some insight on fucking with Tom Brady? I mean, we know that the protocol to beat Tom Brady is get bodies in his face, but I mean, if there's anybody who knows Tom Brady, it's the guy who's freaking coached him for 20 years. I'm just wondering if anybody in the league has just picked up the phone and called Bill Belichick. It's like, hey, help me beat this guy. And Belichick obliged.
Ooh. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's going to be such a tough sell for Belichick, not because he feels any kind of kinship or feeling like he has to protect any kind of secrets between Tom Brady. I just don't know that Belichick wants to help other opposing coaches be better coaches.
Okay.
I think Belichick, he has done this, not all himself, like he reaches out to other people, but typically he's going to reach out to coordinators or college coaches or look at film or kind of figure it out himself or rely on his own coordinators rather than trying to reach outside his own organization.
No, I understand. I just wondering if maybe Sean Payton has been, hitting up because they're in the same division now as Brady and the Bucs and the Saints. And if Sean Payton, calling Bill Belichick's secretary and trying to get a little phone meeting with him. So, I don't know. It's just something that kind of came to my mind. Just curiosity. If there really was that much animosity between Brady and Belichick, I wonder if Belichick would be willing to call take phone calls from every NFC coach and offer pointers on how to beat Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing. We wondered if Belichick and Brady, the competitiveness. Now, Brady, I feel like is definitely wanting to be better than the Patriots, but I don't know. We don't know what Belichick's mindset is, but it may have been he wanted to be better than the Bucs, so I don't know. So we'll see. Just that was my thoughts on this one. As far as the game goes, it's all going to be another matter. I think the Bucs, when they're firing all cylinders like this, like they've played well for the last month, but sometimes, you go through, tough spots. Chris Godwin's probably not going to play this game. I'm not sure what his status is at this point. Things like that. Mike Evans and Brady haven't really been, I thought that would be the big connection this year, and it just really hasn't materialized into too much. So, the Giants, Monday night, my thoughts, Token, on dogs getting 3 or more in primetime games. So.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, it's time for the picks, and since I am in last place, I suppose it's my turn to give them to you so you can get your fade pens ready. So let's jump right in. My picks this week for week number. Come on, Spike. You're better than that.
Yeah, I mean, apparently I'm not because I'm just I'm not getting it. Next week I'll be on it. Don't you worry.
All right, so my picks for week number 8 here. I am sitting at 11 points on the season, and I am rolling with the Buffalo Bills at -4.5. I'm also rolling with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Browns. I don't even like basketball. I like coming up with the Cavaliers, but Cleveland Browns covering 2.5 against the Raiders. I talked about this. I love the bye week for Baltimore. I'm going to take them. The number was 4.5. I will take them to cover that 4.5. I will take the under in the LA-Miami game. I'm going to fade Tua Tagovailoa for the first game, and I think the west to east thing for LA might make their offense a little sluggish this week, so I'll take the under 45.5. It was 46, but I got to move it down. And despite Spike's great advice of why would we be on the Giants in this game, I'm going to take the Giants plus 12.5 on Monday Night Football. And since Tony Johnson is in third place, Spike, I'll have you read his picks.
Yeah, so Aaron, you are the only one not on the San Francisco and Seattle game, which is what Tony Johnson uses to kick off his picks, taking Seattle minus the 3.5. He's very heavy on the favorites this week. With New Orleans and Chicago, he's got the Saints minus the 4.5. Rams in Miami, he's looking at, again, the favorite, minus 3.5. That's the LA Rams. Pittsburgh and Baltimore, once again on the favorite, taking Baltimore minus the 4.5. And the only dog he has this week, Aaron, he agrees with you, taking the Giants versus Tampa Bay plus 12.5. So our two last place contestants right now are both on the Giants plus 12.5, which means Tampa Bay should win by about 35.
All right, Token, you're in second place. Let's hear your picks.
All right, now's the time to really grab out your pens. After a 4-1 week last week from me,
Yep.
I'm predicting a 2-3 week out of me, so it's time to fade the token. And I'm going to start out with the Rams minus 3.5. Going against the Miami Dolphins against Tua for the first time, so I like that coaching's predicament a little better. Indy, Detroit over 49.5. Both offenses should do well against both opposing defenses. Tennessee and Cincinnati over 50.5. The only concern I have about this one is Cincinnati putting enough points up, but Tennessee might get there pretty close by themselves. So Seattle minus 3.5, and then the Bills minus 4.5 to round it off.
All right. I will start my picks with the first of two totals. I very rarely do two totals in a week, but this week I saw two that kind of jumped out at me. And the first one is a disagreement with Token. I am going under in the Tennessee and Cincinnati game. I think this is, really, really close type game, probably like a 27-21 type finish where it's just under. So I'm taking under 50.5 Tennessee and Cincinnati. I'm taking the Raiders plus the 2.5 against the Browns, partially because fuck the Browns for fucking me over last week, and partially because what I talked about with Josh Jacobs keeping the ball out of Baker Mayfield's hands. Seattle minus the 3.5 and the Clippers minus the 3.5. Both of those games, I just think that those are two much better teams. I thought the lines were way too low. And the second total is also in that Monday night game, Tampa Bay and the Giants. I'm going over the total because I think Tampa Bay gets over the total by themselves. Another one of those spots where one offense is just ridiculously better than the defense on the other side. Brady's playing out of his mind. Brady's playing against a team that denied him 2 Super Bowls. Brady goes, fuck you. Gronkowski goes Hulk smash and over the total by the end of the third quarter. You're hearing it here first.
All right, fair enough. Hopefully that is a strong 0-5 week, especially since you're fading some of my picks in that spot. So I'm rooting for you to go 0-5.
All right, appreciate it. Even if I go 0-5, you're still going to be
you're putting money in the jar, bitch.
Assuming I go 0-5 and you go 5-0, you're still 5 points behind me.
That's okay. Baby steps, bitch.
All right, bring it.
Baby steps. All right, so we're going to wrap it up here with our DraftKings DFS lineup provided by Token Tony, and I will provide the William Hill 4-team 14-point teaser as we wrap it up here. So, Token, again, we talked about this on the golf betting podcast. Yahoo Sports DFS app has been hot garbage the last few weeks. So even though we cannot bet DFS here on DraftKings, we are going, most of the world does, or most of the country does. So we're going to go with DraftKings for the foreseeable future for Token Tony's DFS lineup. Hit them, Token.
Yep. So 50 grand allowance as always for the week. I'm going to start out with quarterback. We got Ryan Tannehill for 6,800. Moving on to running back number 1, Kareem Hunt for 6,900. And then I'm picking a Lions running back for no goddamn reason. I'm going to take DeAndre Swift for 5,300. Moving on to the 3 wide receiver positions, we got Cole Beasley for 5,300. Adam Humphries for 3,800 and Tyler Lockett for 7,100. Don't really like the Tyler Lockett for that value, but against this San Francisco defense, he should be able to do at least well and get at least 80 yards.
Yeah, decent week last week, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. And then moving on, tight end. My dark horse of the week tight end is going to be Hunter Henry for the Clippers for 4,200. Moving on to the flex, going with another wide receiver out of Tennessee, and that's going to be Corey Davis for 5,100. And then the defense and special teams of the week is going to be the Chiefs for 4,500.
45?
Yep.
There you
So
go.
remaining salary of 1,000.
All right, just to recap, we have Tokens DFS. He's got Ryan Tannehill at 6,800, Kareem Hunt 6,900, and DeAndre Swift as his running backs 5,300. Cole Beasley, interesting choice on that one, 5,300. Adam Humphries, I like that one at 3,800. Tyler Lockett, 7,100. Not Derrick Henry, Hunter Henry as the tight end, but Derrick Henry could also play tight end too at 4,200. Corey Davis at 5,100. Another interesting pick in my opinion. He's struggled a little bit this year as A.J. Brown has been lighting the world on fire. And the defense is the Chiefs. That's probably a solid pick because I think they're playing a Pop Warner team this week. All right, so the Chiefs for 4,500. So we're going to get you some William Hill 14.4 team teaser. I believe, Spike, if I'm correct, I am 2-2 this year.
For the ones that we have on here, I honestly don't remember. I haven't really been keeping track of your
I'm either
records.
2-2 or 3-2, but no matter. We're going to win this one anyways. And get your pens out. It's a 14-point teaser. The first one I'm taking is the Buffalo Bills. They are -4, so I am moving into +10 against the New England Patriots. We talked about this earlier in the show. You asked if I would take the Jets +34. I probably would, but I'm going to take the Kansas City Chiefs -6. I think they comfortably win this game by double-digit points. You guys talked about the Tennessee and Cincinnati total. I am going to move that total down to 36.5 and take the over. And despite having the Giants +12.5 in my picks for our contest, I am going to move Tampa from 12.5 to +1.5. I think they are going to win this game, so I'll just take the extra points there just in case they lose it on a last-second field goal and lose by 1. All right, so recap that once again. That's Buffalo +10, Kansas City -6, Tennessee and Cincinnati's total over 36.5, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers +1.5. Guys, we appreciate you all listening or watching or whatever you do to support us. We appreciate it again. Visit us on Twitter at Vegas Squares and visit us on our website at LV Squares. Please go to our sponsors page. Support those sponsors. The last of the sponsors, obviously, Wicked Cuts Jerky, In the Hole Golf, DC4L Custom Tees, Pro-Am Customizations, and, of course, the OG Chai Poker. Want to thank all of them. Please support them so they can continue to support us. For the ghost of Tony Johnson is Token Tony and Spike. I am Aaron. We appreciate you listening. Good luck on your bets, and we'll catch you on the next one.